Welcome into today's episode of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. I'm Mike Renner, Kyle Long, joining as always, and Brock Vereen back joining the show. We're going to be going through NFC win total over-unders, giving our picks. We did AFC yesterday. If you haven't listened to it, go check it out after this. But boys, did we all listen to Taylor Swift on the Kelsey podcast? What were our initial thoughts? I know we all listened to the whole thing, right?
It was too bright. The star was too bright for me to look at, listen to, but I will be very, very honest with you. I think what we're seeing is a rare occurrence in the universe where a bunch of gigantic forces of nature converge. It's like, in the swimming pool, you and your buddies are jumping around and there's a bunch of waves, and every once in a while those waves converge in the middle and it's like a peak. And you get that water droplet that goes up. When I think about Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, Jason Kelce, the National Football League, all being in this perfect storm, it's just like, I don't think I've ever seen star power harnessed in the way that it's harnessed by the Kelces and by Taylor. For her to announce her album on their podcast, and Travis is sitting there holding the album like a little kid on Christmas morning. It's really cool. And I'm not one of those people that's pissed off that Taylor Swift's on our screen all the time. I mean, she's one of the biggest stars that I've ever witnessed. But I've taken note of the fact that they have taken over, whether it's the Monday Night Football broadcast or any coverage of the Chiefs. Taylor Swift, she's everywhere. We can't escape it, guys. Just accept it. We live in this world now. You'll be a lot happier. And her music's pretty good.
I would say if this does, in fact, being the final season for Travis Kelce, a huge congrats to him for being potentially married in the future to the biggest pop star on planet Earth, and everything he has done for the tight end position, really taking big wide receivers and saying, hey, you don't have to block anymore. Just run the crispest routes ever and make sure that you're in a window that a quarterback can find you. And as much as we kind of laugh at it, it did change NFL offenses, I would say, for the better, even if you're a tight end purist. So congrats to Travis Kelce on having Taylor Swift in your corner to promote your show and you promote her album. Obviously, she desperately needed you to promote that album. No, it's a really cool thing, and the sooner you can move past it, your weird feelings about seeing Taylor Swift on your screen, the sooner you can realize she is in fact making the sport better.
Yeah, Mike, if you've never been to her show, go to her show. I mean, it's like I've never seen athleticism.
I don't know if I can afford going to her show.
Dude, first off, you got to save up for about a decade, so plan in advance. But when you go to her show, it's 4 hours straight of this woman performing, singing every single song, dancing, running around. The stage is 100 yards long, and they've got 45 outfit changes, and she doesn't lose the juice. It's unbelievable. It's like watching a great football player in the fourth quarter just maintain excellence, and you're like, that person's in peak condition.
Better than Travis? I guess Travis is in better shape this year. Better than Travis last year.
Travis is in better shape because of Taylor. I promise you that much.
My only knowledge of what happened on the podcast was my wife said that Taylor said that everything that football fans definitely want to see more of her is what was her takeaway. I think she was trolling by saying that, but yeah.
We do a little trolling.
I just think that it's bringing in new fans. It's bringing in new interest in the NFL, which means more money involved.
Young interest.
That means job security for us, boys. That means job security for us.
And all you guys who go to football games and drink beers and get smashed every weekend with your buddies and complain about your lacking love life, just imagine all these young, beautiful women that are going to be going to the games. This is a conversation point, an icebreaker. You can be on the right side of the conversation. We're trying to get ahead of this thing and help me help you.
In closing, I will say, for any guy who's saying, oh my God, I can't believe all this Taylor Swift news, all this gossip, it's annoying. Remind yourself of that the next time you text your buddy. Did you see what Jerry Jones said about Micah Parsons? It's the same thing. It's all the same thing, guys.
And now when you're hitting on girls at bars, they might actually want to hear about your fantasy team. They might actually want to hear about your fantasy team.
Xavier Worthy. They will all have Xavier Worthy on their team.
All right, let's get to these win totals. NFC South. We're going to start with Tampa Bay Bucks. They won 10 games a year ago. They were your South champions. 9.5 is their over-under. It's at minus 105 right now. So not everyone buying into that over 9.5. But we're not only buying. We're blowing that 9.5 out the water. Brock's going with 12. Kyle's going with 12. I'm going with 13. I believe
Ooh.
that was the highest of any team in the NFC. I obviously had the Ravens with 14 in the AFC, but I have them as your 1 seed right now, given that win total. Brock, why did you go so high here with 12?
Because there's a new normal in Tampa Bay, right? After Tom Brady leaves, everyone thinks, okay, let's just ride Baker Mayfield till his wheels fall off, which shouldn't be too long. We'll see what Todd Bowles has left. And here we are a couple years later. The only teams with longer playoff streaks than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. There is a new normal in Tampa Bay. They enter that team, they put that uniform on, expecting to win, expecting to make the playoffs, and now expecting to compete for Super Bowls, because what else is left? There is a new normal there that changes the mindset, that changes the approach, that changes the confidence in the fourth quarter when things get tight. And of course, Bucky Irving is a monster and is going to take over this league once Saquon hands over the reins.
Yeah, they've got a great blend of veteran talent outside. Obviously, Mike Evans is just the horse that just continues to run and doesn't slow down for this offense. Baker Mayfield, undoubtedly one of the best leaders in football. Guys will blindly run into any room with him at the front. And then, you talked about new normal, and I think one guy that gets glossed over a lot is Todd Bowles, and the calming effect that he probably has on a team, because you hear him speak at a podium, and I don't think his heart rate ever goes above, excited. He doesn't ever get really excited. He is just all business. And you can see from this team week in, week out, it doesn't matter on the road, at home, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers show up. So I have him down for 12 wins, ... with 2 signature wins. Now, if you remember last year, they went and they had some signature wins on the road. I fully anticipate this team not to blink, more of the same. And I really like Emeka Egbuka as well. I feel like they've got just weapons.
Yeah, I'm right there with both you guys. And I think, this was, for my money, it should have been a 12-win team a year ago. If Todd Bowles didn't fart out 2 game plans against Kirk Cousins and let him go for over 300 in both those games, it's like literally the only 2 games all year he played well. If they didn't do that and lose both those games, this was a 12-win team a year ago. It was like a team that could, they hung with the Lions, they hung with they hung with the top of the NFC in a way that no one else really did. And so because of that, I think this is a team that they're even better this year. And now we've talked about the offensive line. That's what could sink their season. I just don't think it will, because there's too many weapons on the outside. There's too much in this secondary now. And there's too much. I think the things that have got underrated is their additions along the defensive line. They now have a defensive line that goes 2 units deep in terms of guys that can get after the passer. And that's kind of what it takes to be that consistently dominant defense. So for all those reasons, big fan of the Bucs. And then the cherry on top is just easy division. This is not. They are not playing the NFC North schedules. They are not playing the NFC East schedules. It is much easier for them to get to a 12, 13-win season, in my opinion, than a team like the Lions, than a team like the Eagles, who are going to have a dogfight anytime they have a divisional game. All right, Atlanta Falcons up next. 8 wins, season to go. They're over under 7.5. A lot of people are calling that crazy, myself included. It is at -145. That one is nuts to me, because they won 8 games last year, and if you just watch Michael Penix versus Kirk Cousins, they were a much better team, even just the 3 games that Penix was in there. So I feel like I was hedging with this going 9. Kyle, you went 9 as well, and Brock, you went with 10.
I did, and the biggest reason is new defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich. Now, we think of Jeff Ulbrich as being some kind of failure last year because he was associated with the Jets, and anyone associated with the Jets must have failed, right? No, he was kind of thrust into an uneasy situation being the interim head coach of a sinking ship, and that's why we forget that when he was just focusing on defense, he's a darn good defensive coordinator. And all the negativity that happened with this offseason with his son and Shador in the draft, he's kind of a sour name in all of our minds. He is a phenomenal coordinator, and this Atlanta Falcons defense has talent. It has not been able to come together. They have not been able to get after the quarterback for almost a decade now, but he will be the missing piece. If you look at their defense last year, they were bottom 5 in sacks, third downs, and red zone touchdowns. If you can fix 2 of those, you're fine. And he can fix 2 of those things. Again, it is not a talent issue. if you can get enough out of just two of the rookies, I see it being Watts and either of the pass rushers, you are going to be fine. And just give Bijan Robinson the football. Don't overthink it. Just hand him the football. He can be as dynamic of a player in the NFL as possible. So offensively, dumb it down. Defensively, ramp it up. 10 wins.
Yeah, I just really love the way that this offense is constructed. They've got so many guys that can fit into a role that you're looking to accomplish something with. It's not like they have 4 of the same guy or 3 of the same guy, which we talk about over and over again. The way that some of these receiver rooms, tight end rooms are constructed just doesn't make sense. The Falcons have the recipe, and that dish is going to be really tasty. And you can tell they're confident with the offensive side of the ball by the way that they drafted. Obviously, they went out, they bolstered that front 7. They want guys who can rush the passer because that'll play into the hands of a team that scores points. And that's what they're going to do, in my opinion. Michael Penix Jr., calm, cool, collected, wise beyond his years. And a guy like Kyle Pitts may see a big-time upswing in production this year. I love the Falcons. I really do. And I think that a good Falcons team is good for the NFL. I truly believe that this is where they're going to end up this year.
Yeah, if there's any team that's kind of in this range of just like a lot of 7.5 wins, people are predicting them to go below 500, that I could see just like kind of racing out and outpacing everyone's expectations, going 13-4, 14-3, just really being like amongst the top in the NFC. I think it's the Atlanta Falcons, just because of what Michael Penix showed in his rookie year, what the weapons he has at his disposal, what they have with Bijan Robinson in that running game. That it's just, this could be an awesome offense that looks much different defensively just because, they just didn't have talent last year. It did not have talent. And Raheem Morris specifically, I think has been, going back to his days in Los Angeles, he has been able to scheme around a lack of talent. But then, what's going to happen when he has some talent? I think he now has some guys that can actually get after the passer. So the range of outcomes is big. I don't think the range of outcomes goes under 7.5, though. That would blow my mind. It would have to be, honestly, injuries to get to that point. All right, Carolina Panthers up next. 5 wins last year, 6.5 they're over under, but everyone's buying into the over, into Bryce Young, -145. Everyone but Kyle and Brock. Kyle's going 6. Brock's going 5.
I actually want to go less.
7.
I want to go less. 7. I want to go 5, actually. I'll let Brock go first.
He's changing
it. I'm already changing. Dude, I just looked at the schedule again, and I'm like, the wins didn't leave one hand. You know what I'm saying?
So I hate that this comes off as an indictment on Canales, on Bryce, on Carolina, and all that. It's not going to be this year. It's going to be next year. And the reason is Bryce Young took tremendous leaps to finish out last year. Bryce Young is not yet at a point where he can lead a team with a passing attack to the win. They need to run the football. And I look at this running back room, and I don't know if I see a room capable of running the ball 25, maybe even 30 times in some situations when Bryce needs it. Hubbard, Dowdle, Etienne. I'm excited about Etienne. I'm excited about a lot of these rookies, right? I'm excited about Etienne. I'm excited about Tetairoa McMillan. I'm excited about Nick Scorton and Lathan Ransom. All of those names are going to become household names in the future. All of those names are going to shine in 2 seasons. I don't see it this year. I'm high on the Falcons. I'm high on Tampa Bay. They got to beat somebody, and I see them both going 2-0 against Carolina. A tough schedule outside of that leaves me with 5 wins. But I want to emphasize, I'm not trying to give up on Bryce. It's just going to take 2 years for this whole thing to really come together.
Yeah, I'm not giving up on Bryce either. But, I'm looking at the schedule right here, and, I'll count the Dolphins as a win at home October 5th. I'll probably say it's going to be a shootout in some of these games. I'll give the Jets game a win for the Panthers. Maybe they go to New York and ball out both Saints games, so that's 4. And maybe we'll just throw a random one in there, and we'll call it 5 for the Carolina Panthers. I think Tetairoa McMillan is going to be a star. Bryce Young, while he may never be a top 5, top 10 quarterback in the National Football League, the Carolina Panthers wouldn't complain if he ended up as a steady top 12, top 13 guy. You can build a football team around a guy like that, and you can win a Super Bowl with a guy like that. But right now, they're just not there, to Bryce's point, or to Brock's point. So the schedule doesn't lend itself to the original number I said. I'm going to stick with 5 here. Both Saints wins, a Jets win, and maybe a couple shootouts in here. Maybe the Dolphins as well. Sorry, Harry.
I went 7. but there's just no way I would ever bet the over on this. Especially minus 145 because and I went 7 because I think Bryce, I think he's got enough. I think he's got enough that he could flourish and be the guy I thought he was going to be coming out of Alabama. But this defense still isn't good. It just isn't good. This defense, they can't rush the passer. They do not have guys that can rush the passer off the edge right now. Their best guys, they're kind of like in the same boat as the Falcons, where it's like, hey, we're relying on 2 rookies. And unlike the Falcons, their rookies are 2nd and 3rd rounders, not 2 first rounders to get after the passer. So I just
Turk Wharton, good nickel interior rusher that they signed, but he's not an edge guy. And when you think rush, you're thinking about caving in the edges or attacking the edges.
Yeah, you have
They're
to
going to have some wins, but it's not going to be traditional.
Very few teams have been able to get by, but unless you have an Aaron Donald, you need edge guy. Like that's where your pressure comes from more often than not, consistently. Turk, a great addition. Don't get me wrong, but their edge guys are DJ Wanham right now. Dick Scorton, obviously Prince Liam Mielon, Patrick Jones. This is not an edge group that is inspiring confidence in me. So for that, I went 7, but I definitely wouldn't bet over 7. Saints, last one in the division here. 5 wins a year ago. They're over-unders 4.5.
Oof.
People are loving it, though. They are tied for the most juice to the over in the NFL. It's minus 150 to bet that over, and none of us are betting the over. I'm going 3. Kyle went 4, and Brock, you went 4 as well.
I'm going 4, and it's because the man in that graphic right there, Alvin Kamara, can't do everything. And he's going to have to do everything because somehow, once again, the Saints quarterback position is up in the air. Of course, they thought Derek Carr was going to be the quarterback of the future. The injuries over his time in New Orleans just made it difficult, and he, at least unsuspectingly for us, maybe there was more insight internally, decided to step aside. And so the franchise that has had 8 starting quarterbacks in the past 4 years, Shuck's going to take at least 1 starting snap. So now we're looking at 9 and 5, maybe even more. It's just so hard to build anything with that level of instability, with that level of age on the defensive side. I love some of those names. Demario Davis, Cam Jordan is like an older cousin to me. He played at Cal with my brother, so I hate that he may see this and want to fight me. I'm sorry, Cam. Hall of Fame career, by the way, and I will give you a call and pat you on the back when that time comes. But the age defensively, I just don't understand what the offensive scheme is. Obviously, you have a young offensive mind, Kellen Moore, running the show, but you still have to have the guys to be able to do it. And I just don't see anything offensively that really inspires me outside of number 41. Did he have a career year last year? Yes, because he had to do everything, and they didn't win many games. So I see a little more of the same in New Orleans.
A win for the New Orleans Saints would look like this. Kellen Moore instills a culture. The positions not named quarterback buy into that this offense is hamstrung only because of lack of quarterback. So it's like everybody buys in. We get to draft who we want, and we move forward as an organization. That is how you get a win this season for Kellen Moore. And you indicate to your team and the men in the building that, yes, I am head coach. And I know I'm probably the same age as some of you guys and some of your older brothers, but we're doing things this way. And if they can establish that in New Orleans, it's a win. Because let's be honest, nobody expects them to do much. Over under is 4.5. I'm going to go 4. I just feel like it's going to be an uphill battle all year. I've been on teams where that the end is near for a lot of the roster, and they put themselves in this position contractually with a lot of guys. And Mike's covered that at length. I feel bad for the Saints. And this is going to be one of those years for guys like Cam Jordan who are looking to get to like Von Miller in career sack numbers. Let's hope that the Saints have the lead enough or are in ball games enough to where people are passing and guys like Cam Jordan can put the cherry on top of a Hall of Fame career.
Yes. See, I went 3 because I think with the proliferation of quarterback talent, maybe there's not the guys we saw a decade ago. There's not this big elite top group, but there is you go like 25 or so deep of guys who are kind of in like the franchise quarterback-ish status right now for their respective teams. Like there just is a lot of talent. So if you don't have a guy and from last year when Spencer Rattler started, they went 0-6, right? They're like, when you don't have a guy, it's just such a big drop off from what everyone else is dealing with in the NFL. Like everyone else can run some semblance of a competent offense. And if you don't have a guy who can, like just go back to like when Zach Wilson was starting, or just you have that level of quarterback. You're just so far behind the 8 ball in today's NFL that it's just going to be very difficult for you to win games. So that's why
every week feels like training camp on a team like this, even in the regular season, because you know that you're being evaluated because all they're thinking about is the future. And like right now, they're trying to make the pieces that they want survive the present to get to the future. And you want to be part of that. So, I mean, like you just got to find a way to lock in if you're a young New Orleans Saint.
Yeah.
Well
all
said.
right. Let's take a quick break. After that, let's get to the NFC North.
Here we go. The 2025 CBS Sports NFL schedule is here. 18 glorious Sundays.
He's got his receiver touchdown.
Filled with rematches.
Oh, the play of the year.
And rivalries.
Touchdown, Bengals.
Plus, plenty of superstar showdowns. And an epic matchup between the Chiefs and Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Clear your Sundays beginning September 7th for the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Lions, your NFC North champs a year ago, 15 wins. They were the 1 seed. 10.5, though, is their over-under. People expecting a big backslide here because it's juice to that under, plus 110 if you want to bet the over. So if you really feel strongly about this Lions team, cobbling it together, sans both their coordinators from a season ago, you're getting very good odds here. I won 11. Cal, you won 11, but Brock, you're actually buying this big drop-off with 10.
Yes, and a huge part of that reason is not really the Lions' fault. Well, it is their fault. They won so many games last year that you get a tougher draw, right? That's part of it. But what doesn't get factored in when they say, hey, let's give the Lions when you win a division is when you have 30 different starters on the defensive side of the football. And when a lot of those guys won't be back or be themselves until midway through the year. I understand that Dan Campbell is saying, hey, we got Aiden Hutchinson. There's an Aiden Hutchinson rule. He looks great. He looks awesome. I don't find it disrespectful to say we all need to see it, right? We all need to see that he can be that guy. Then you got names like Malcolm Rodriguez, who we don't know when they're going to come back. We hope they come back. And this cornerback room is already taking hits. How many starting quarterbacks are they going to expect the starting quarterbacks they're going to have come week 1? And what is that depth going to look like later down the road? I mean, you look at the schedule, you got Baltimore, Cincinnati, Kansas City, Tampa Bay, Washington, Philly. None of those games I can really give to the Lions right now. Will not slash and dash Sonic and Knuckles be fun to watch? Absolutely. Is Jared Goff a better decision maker than he gets credit for? Yes. Amon-Ra St. Brown is as fun a slot wide receiver as we can watch. I just feel the odds are stacked against them in regards to the win total. This is still a playoff team, and they can still make some things happen there. But as far as the win total, I got to cap it at 10.
I'll start with the injuries to key positions along the defensive side of the football. And as somebody who went through a lot of these lower body injuries, it takes a long time. And your body may get there in time, but it takes longer for your mind to match that and be able to not think about putting your leg in the ground or that double team coming to get you or the tight end coming across the formation. There's so many things that I have to just wait and see here for the Detroit Lions because there's so many game changers, game records that are in that situation I'm talking about. The cool thing about the Lions this year, and something I'm going to keep my eyes on, is when that wave of health comes back, because we know that they're a talented enough football team to be in the running for the Super Bowl. How much different will this team look come playoff time in a good way? We saw last year that the numbers indicated that the team was just going to be not the same defensively. They may be the team that gets healthy at the end this year, and we could be having a completely different conversation. This is a group that's unfazed. Dan Campbell doesn't blink, and I know his guys don't. That's why the number is what it is for me this season, but it's a wait and see for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I think you'd be kidding yourself if you didn't think they'd take a little bit of a step backward. It just is going to be how much. But the biggest thing is with this win total and why you're going to see 3 of the 4 teams in the NFC North are super juiced to the under, and people are betting unders on this division, is because they play the NFC East and the AFC North. You know, the 2 other best divisions in football. So they have the hardest schedules going forward, whereas we're going to get to the NFC West. NFC West plays the AFC South and the NFC South. Like the NFC West has a cakewalk of what they have from a just matchup perspective this season. So it's going to be difficult for this NFC North to, 15 wins, 14 wins, 11 wins a year ago. That's just, there's no way that's happening. It's just, the schedules are too tough this year. So let's get to the Minnesota Vikings, who did themselves have 14 wins last season. 9.5, though, is their over-under, and people are not buying the J.J. McCarthy hype. I went with 9. Kyle went with 8. Brock went with 9, and it's plus 110 if you want to bet that over. So you're getting some plus money if you really think the Vikings have a repeat of last season.
This all comes down to the learning curve of J.J. McCarthy, who's basically having a redshirt rookie season. So watching J.J. through the entirety of his college career at Michigan, covering the Big Ten, the thing about J.J. is he doesn't do any physical thing exceptionally, right? It's not like he has the greatest arm, the greatest accuracy. He can run, but he's not the fastest quarterback, right? So why is JJ so special? Why do people fall in love with him? It's a chemistry thing. He gets guys to fall in love with him, to trust him. He has a hive mind with his guys. He knows where they're going to be before they get there, and that can only come with game reps. I feel this first month and a half of football is going to be ugly. They can win some of those games, but it's going to be ugly. It's not like a Cam Ward where, well, if they're open, Cam Ward's going to find him and he's going to chuck that ball and it's going to be perfect, right? That's not what JJ does. It's going to take some time, and once he gets on the same page, once he knows what these guys eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's when he shines, and that will be in the back half of the season. Quite honestly, after they've spent some time with the losing record, JJ McCarthy will be fine in the NFL. Just buckle up because the first couple weeks are going to be ugly. Jordan Addison isn't even going to be there, so then he has to start fresh with him starting week 4. So there will be a significant learning curve, but buckle up, Vikings fans. It will all be fine in the end, but you will not be winning as many games as you did last year.
Yeah, it feels like to me that the recurring theme in the NFC North is that there are going to be teams that start slower than they finish. And the Minnesota Vikings are a prime example of that with a second year, but let's call him a rookie quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, who didn't get to experience NFL action last year. The big complaint for the Vikings was that there was a ceiling for this football team when it came time for rubber to meet the road in meaningful games at the end of the season. And Sam Darnold, and not all of it was Sam Darnold because there's 11 guys on offense every time you're on the field. The team wasn't ready for it. The team didn't show up in the way that their roster's constructed. But look, their coaching can overcome lackluster quarterback play early in the season. Their roster is strong enough to overcome it. Their defense is strong enough to overcome it. Look, J.J. McCarthy may be one of these big-time surprises that if he is just driving the car without running it off the road at the end of the year, this Vikings team could be dangerous. While I have them down for what do I have them down for? 8 wins? Yeah, 8 wins here. Look, they could be. If you told me that they got 10 wins this year, I'd be like, damn, JJ, you went off. Like it's not far fetched.
Yeah, this one just comes down to me to that. To J.J. McCarthy, my pre-draft eval on him was not a first-round grade. He's also, he's not a rookie, but he's kind of still a rookie in that you still got to play in the NFL. You still got to see the speed. You still got to see these looks in real time and get up to speed before you really start to master the game. And so he's just not going to be in his final form. He's going to have some mistakes that maybe year 3, year 4 of his career he won't start making. So for all those reasons, the difficult schedule, the first-year quarterback, and the fact that I just don't trust the secondary. I know Brian Flores is a magician. I know he's going to get the best out of it, but there really is only so much you can do when your corners are not players. So when they are not guys who can go one-on-one consistently. So I do think this defense isn't a top 5 defense in the NFL. And that's what they're going to need to get through the schedule to get to double-digit wins. So I went with that. I agree with Packers. 2024, they won 11 games. Their over-under is 9.5, and the only team in the division with minus odds here to go over that. Minus 120 right now. People buying a little bit into the Packers going double digits again, and we're all buying into it as well. I went 10. Kyle went 11. Brock went 12.
Oh, yeah.
Brock, give it to me. Why am I too low on my own Packers here?
I love Jordan Love. All of this comes down to what you feel about Jordan Love. Not the biggest sample size, but it feels like everyone is so impassioned about it. Well, I'm on the positive side. I'm all in. You go back to last year, and yes, he didn't take that massive leap that everyone was hoping for statistically. But the fact is, he gets, what was it, his MCL sprain week 1, a shoulder pops up later, there's a groin injury. He played the entire season banged up. He also had a young wide receiver core that I'm in love with, a wide receiver core that I would say, when healthy, is deeper than anyone else in the NFL, a wide receiver core that they added to with rookie Matthew Golden. 23 drops last year. Unacceptable. Not going to happen again. Not in a Matt LaFleur offense. All of them are a year older, a year more experienced. How about Josh Jacobs, proven that forget tread on tires. He just got some brand new tires. This offense is loaded, and this defense has the perfect defensive coordinator in Jeff Hafley. Yes, there are not a lot of names outside of Xavier McKinney who are going to be competing for all-pro spots. I get it, but Jeff Hafley's defense is keep everything in front. If the offense is going to score, make them earn it, and we're going to trust our offense to go down there and score. I am so high on Green Bay. I'm looking at them in the NFC Championship, and they get there via 12 wins.
I like Green Bay as well, and I think it's important to point out that the health inconsistency with Jordan Love was, a big factor in him not having that blockbuster season we were expecting. But I also like that receiver room, and it's important to point out the last time that the Packers had a skilled player that wore a really ugly number was Ty Montgomery at the running back position. Do you remember that offense?
That's right. Yeah.
It was a dangerous offense. That's all I'm saying. So you got number 22, Matthew Golden, out there, who is going to be a true number 1 receiver for this group. I'm just saying history repeats itself. Beware. I've got the Packers at 11 wins. So right now it's the Lions and the Packers vying for the most wins coming out of the NFC North. And, that's not a very big surprise. And anything can happen in this division. All 4 of these teams are talented. The offensive line is what I'm going to keep my eye on. They're going to need some guys to step up in a big way. But yeah, 11 wins. I don't see it being too far-fetched. This is a team that can compete for the NFC North title.
I guess the reason I'm just a touch lower, and I do think this offense is going to be very good this year. I have no questions about that. It's just I thought they smoke and mirrors it a little bit defensively. They were very reliant on turnovers a year ago. Those can be fickle from year to year. I just need to see more from this defensive line. I need to see guys like Lucas Van Ness, Rashawn Gary start playing better, Devontae Wyatt take another step forward. If that's the case, that happens, they can be the ones. They're very talented. If that D-line starts playing like where they were drafted to play like, we can talk about them being as good as anyone else in the NFC. But until then, I'm just going to be a little hesitant to say, especially again with their schedule, with that division, that this team is definitely going back to the playoffs. Chicago Bears, last team in the North.
Bears.
5 wins a year ago. Over under is 8.5 this year. That's at plus 115.
Get your heads out of your butts.
I went 7. Brock went 8. Kyle went 9. Kyle, you can kick us off here.
Yeah.
Why are we haters?
Look, it's a different team. You don't know this team, okay? You don't know who this team is. You haven't even seen the starters. We're going to see the starters this weekend. Look, I got to watch this group work in person. I got to hear them. The physicality was evident, and the focus is there. The thing that I think swings a lot of these wins in the National Football League is situational awareness, game management, clock management. There's nobody I want in the driver's seat more than a brilliant offensive mind, because they understand that portion of the game as well as anybody. Ben Johnson will not lose the games that are in his hands, okay? But the good news about the 2025 Chicago Bears is that they can keep the game in their hands. Defensively, they've got guys who can cover. They've got exotic type pressure makers on the back end, big time hitters. They've got tackling machines in the middle of the field with guys like TJ Edwards. And now you have this infusion of youth, talent, and then some salty old vets. I mean, Grady Jarrett is in there now for the Chicago Bears. I watched him at practice last week. He looked like the Grady Jarrett that I was always like, I hope I don't have to play against him. In addition to that, guys like Dexter Sr. on the interior are going to continue to develop. Montez Sweat is going to be healthier this year, and I truly anticipate him having a solid year. But the thing that sets this group apart, similar to how the Packers have a murderer's row at the receiver position, and maybe not all of them are CeeDee Lamb type receiver ones, they got a murderer's row in the developmental or in the skill positions, and they're developing a real core of all-stars there. They just need to play within the offense. They need to find a way to get Caleb to be on time. And if they can do that, I anticipate this offense being really, really lethal and venomous. They need to figure out the left tackle spot. Is it going to be Braxton? Is it going to be Ozzie? But outside of that, they're set. I used to tell Bobby Massey, my right tackle, at the end of camp, I'd say, close that spaceship door. We're going to the moon. Nobody else is getting on. Nobody else is coming out. No help is coming. Everybody's in their seats. This is it. So that door is closing very soon for the Chicago Bears, particularly that offensive line. Make sure you got the right guys in the right seats.
Definitely one of the most overlooked and underappreciated defensive efforts from a year ago. Obviously, Caleb Williams being the pick that he was, he's going to get most of the attention. And when you watch the Bears, you're watching for the offense. I get it. But that defense is loaded. And if they can perform at the level that they did last year, they're in place to succeed. Dennis Allen, one of, I feel, the most underappreciated additions in free agency this year. He's going to get the most out of them. So I'm right there with you, Kyle, defensively. Offensively, I see this as a compliment from a win total standpoint. I really do. We didn't see enough last year to really have a basis of understanding of what we're working with here. And Kyle's right about that. We don't know who this team is, but what we do know is Ben Johnson takes talent and puts it in position to succeed. He had Jamison Williams doing reverse passes. Obviously, he shouldn't have thrown that interception. He had Amon-Ra St. Brown doing things. He had left tackles doing things. He gets the most out of everyone. He sees things in guys that they have not done before, that they don't see in themselves. So it's not going to be this year. It's going to be next year. Colston Loveland, for all we know, is going to be the best tight end in the NFL one day. This is a guy who comes from the school of Travis Kelce. This is a guy who has all the physical tools. This is Luther Burden, a young guy, can blow by you, has great routes, has great hands, plays a lot. He's a big dude, man. Thank you. I love that you said that, kind of like Amon-Ra St. Brown in a way. Amon-Ra St. Brown seems like a little slot you can knock over. No, he can lower that boom too. The running back room is a cause for concern for a lot of people. I get it. I would say watch out for Kyle Monungai. I think it was going to be a 7th round pick, if not a free agent. No, he was 7th round pick at Rutgers. Absolute workhorse, will be the starter by midseason. Not a knock on Swift. I'm just letting you know the pieces are there, but it's going to be next year that playoff push really takes shape.
The Bears were the hardest one for me. And I lean more towards what Brock just said there about it feels like next year. And why I say it feels like next year is because Caleb Williams feels like next year. He just, from what I saw as a rookie, it would be transformative for him to be good enough for this team to get over the hump in the NFC North, right? And make the playoffs. It would have to come with a massive, massive year-on-year leap. It's happened before, but it just would be so different. He would have to clean up so many things that were so poor a year ago that I just think it's going to be more of a process than maybe Bears fans would like. It's not always the worst thing in the world. Josh Allen was a process before he became Josh Allen. So it can happen. It's just, that's where I see him in his developmental curve. But I do have to give a hat tip to, Ryan Poles. They've put together enough. They've put together a roster that this is, we said it was one of the best situations a rookie quarterbacks ever stepped into. This is the best situation of any year 2 quarterback at minimum that he has around him. So if it's not going to succeed, if he's not going to, if it really looks bad, it looks the same as we saw as rookie in this offense, it might be time to start talking about, is he not the guy? But I think we will see a much more improved offense, but still a team that's 3rd, 4th fiddle in this division. All right, let's take a break after that.
Yeah, take NFC a break. West. I'm going to give you a knuckle sandwich.
NFC East. Right after. All right, NFC West, where Rams are
Kyle is an animal.
Rams were champs a year ago. 9.5 is their over under. Minus 145. People buying the over on the Rams, but I did this number before this week. I went with 10. Kyle went with 10. Brock went with 12. But
8.
We all have the same caveat here.
Stafford thing is big enough smoke that we're all like, what's going on? I think everyone's they're bringing out Did you see that warp stream or whatever was outside the facility?
What is that thing?
That they're giving him a brand new back, apparently. I don't know what that was, but it's specifically from Matt Stafford. Bacchiotomy. But my dad, who was an orthopedic surgeon, used to say, no one ever had a bad back. Usually if you have back injuries, they don't surgery on backs, things of that nature. There's no fixing backs.
There's fusing or pain management.
Yes. So the fact that he still isn't practicing, still isn't even throwing, not a great sign. Let's start by just he's playing, he's healthy the full season, because I think everyone knows if he's not out there, it's it's a 6-7 win team. They're screwed. They're screwed.
There's enough negativity in the world, Mike. I love that. Let's remain positive. If Matthew Stafford can go out there and be the young spring chicken that we know he is, this wide receiver duo in Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams is as scary as it gets. You can't favor one. Both of them have full route trees. Both of them have enough speed to get by you. You trust both of them in any one-on-one situation. It's a nightmare. Then you get Kyron Williams, the newly paid man who has been just a wrecking ball. I will admit, hand up, I didn't see it at first. If you told me his rookie year that this is what Kyron Williams would become, I would have given you one of Kyle's knuckle sandwiches, but I love being wrong about things like that. Kyron Williams is a monster. This offensive line, yeah, if you had to put a question mark somewhere, it'd be on the offensive line, but I take this offensive line over a whole lot of other ones. Defensively, we saw in the playoffs how much growth there was in first year and second year guys. So yes, while I have question marks about the secondary, if you got this pass rush that's about 5 or 6 deep, you can have question marks in the secondary. What it comes down to is Stafford. What it comes down to is, can you stop the run better than you did a year ago? And maybe the most important thing, can you not sleepwalk through the first half of the season that the Rams are known to do? Finishing strong is important, but in a tough NFC, when seeding is so articulate and specific, you can't sleepwalk. You need every single one of those wins. So all that is to say, it hinges on number 9.
Simply put, there's only a handful of units in the National Football League that I will give credit to for wins or losses. I think about the Philadelphia offensive line, or I think about the offensive backfield from Baltimore. These types of units that just win. When I think about the Los Angeles Rams and their 4 horsemen of the apocalypse on the defensive front, I think about the New York Giants' new look defensive line. These are units that can actually win you games. I mean, they will get the football from the quarterback. Sometimes they will run it in themselves. That's called points. So look, Matt Stafford, if he's healthy, they're going to score points. If they score points, the other team will be forced to throw the football. And I'll tell you, as an offensive lineman, you don't want to have to throw the football against a unit like that. Let's hope that he does stay healthy. But if he doesn't, maybe 7 or 10.
Yeah, I went with 10. I mean, if this team, like you just told me, they stay healthy the entire year, no injuries. I mean, it's 13 wins is within play. Like this is a damn good starting roster. It's just, it's old, it's thin. Health at that point is almost like a given, especially with Stafford's back issue. It's almost like a given that injuries are going to happen at some point. And we saw what happened when the offensive line got banged up last year. Now they got some depth now. They got Willie Lampkin now. They got DJ Humphries now. There is some depth that maybe they're not dead in the water the way they were that 3 or 4 week stretch when they had so many injuries along their offensive line. But then I just look at the secondary and I'm like, there will be games where people, they run into an offensive line that's not overpowered by what they do up front, and then they're back in screwed. Or just, comes with a good game plan where they're getting it out of the hands quickly, mitigating the pass rush, and then they're back in screwed. That's just, I keep coming back to them. Just like, if anytime you're attacking these corners, it's a win for the offense. So I went 10, but again, the Stafford injury is going to be what everyone's on the lookout for. All right, Seattle Seahawks, they won 10 games a year ago. Their over-under is only 7.5. Obviously, a big reason to that. Going from Geno Smith to Sam Darnold. Minus 145 to the over, though. People aren't buying. That's going to be that big of a drop-off. I am, though. I went 7. Brock, you went 8. Cal, you went 8 as well.
So I know it feels cheap to bring up injuries. I know you guys don't like to do that, but I feel bringing it up here is warranted because there is no way Cooper Kupp and Kenneth Walker III play an entire slate of games. We just haven't seen it. For Cooper Kupp, it's been, I want to say, 3 consecutive seasons, at least back-to-back seasons. He's missed at least 5 games. Kenneth Walker III really hasn't been healthy his whole career. So while on paper, Sam Darnold is surrounded with weapons, how often are those weapons going to be there? How reliable are they going to be? This defense will claw them to at least 6 wins. I am so high on this defensive front. I'm so high on Devin Witherspoon. Whether it be nickel, whether it be corner, this guy's going to play NFL forever. He'll eventually move to safety. Like he is phenomenal, and them alone will get them 6 if they can maximize the number of games that K-Dub, Trey, and Cooper Kupp are they're healthy together. That alone gets them 2 more wins. So that's how I came up with the number 8.
Well, and not only that, you got to mention their tackle injury history. Charles,
yeah, true.
Those guys never.
Yeah.
A full season either. So there's a lot of injury concerns on this offense.
Defense will carry him. Sam Darnold will have a few weeks where he's going to be, oh my God, there's the guy that was scouted and recruited and succeeded in Minnesota in large part. But to your point, Brock, I mean, you can set your watch to a few of these teams where it's like, I just know for a fact that these guys aren't going to stay healthy. And they're definitely not going to be healthy together. And a lot of the game plan depends on that. I think about like San Francisco and the injuries they dealt with. And it seemed like nobody was ever healthy on that offensive side of the ball for them. It'll be a similar uphill battle. But when I'm talking about the win total, you got to keep in mind Matt Stafford probably isn't going to be healthy the entirety of the season. So there's a couple slugfests, maybe against a backup quarterback. The Arizona Cardinals are up and down, but talented. And again, the health concerns in San Francisco. So, I mean, these are teams in the division. You can sneak a couple wins if you play against some backups, but it ain't going to be very great in Seattle.
Yeah, this one to me is just, I think going from Geno Smith, Sam Darnold's a huge downgrade. Just huge. I don't think you can mitigate that. And you also went from DK Metcalf to Cooper Kupp. Like, I think that's also a huge downgrade. Like, I don't. If your goal was to take the next step offensively or just take the next step this offseason into, a team that won double-digit games to NFC West champs to a Super Bowl, I hated what they did. I hated what they did this offseason. I just don't think it was enough. And so that's why I'm at 7. But I'm with you, Brock. This defense is so good. I want this team to be good. They should be good on the defensive side of the ball. It should be a dominant unit. It's just, I don't think offensively you're going to get near the results. Just Sam Darnold's fooled us enough at this point that I don't think he's your savior. All right, Arizona Cardinals up next. 8 wins last year. 8.5 is their over under. Minus 125 if you want to go over, and we're all going over. I went 10. Yeah. Kyle went 10. Brock went 10.
Yeah, I love this team. I loved them last year. I said they were going to be a playoff team. They had opportunities, but they unfortunately fell short. But I feel they got enough of a taste of what it takes. Oh, this is the level we need to play at every single week if we want to make the playoffs. That's what they got. I love Gannon, and I love this offense. Look, James Conner, speaking of the injury bug, this guy is the most physical running back in the NFL. And he's sitting here at back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Nobody wants to tackle him. If you ask linebackers around the NFL, hey, who's the guy that people don't think of is a nightmare to tackle? All of their answer is James Conner. The guy is just a load, and there's nothing you can do with him. Kyler Murray, I understand the criticism in regards of the Call of Duty thing was probably the worst PR thing that could have ever happened for him. And since then, whenever he struggles, it's easy to latch on to calling him lazy, calling him uncommitted. None of that is true. Maybe he plays too many video games, but we all have our vices. None of that is true. This offense is in great hands. Defensively, under defensive coordinator Nick Rallis, I'm very high on him, even if they could have added a little more in free agency. I love what they did in the draft. I feel that in the cornerback room in Will Johnson, everyone is going to be kicking themselves for looking too much into that foot injury. He is going to be a star. Give me 10 wins, a favorable schedule as well.
Yeah, talented team. I'd say 9 wins just because they're a little bit unpredictable. And I've been there in the studio with you, Brock, before on Sunday mornings where you and I are having the conversation. It's like, should Kyler get more respect for the MVP conversation? That's been the level of play that he has shown us he can get to. If he can elevate his level of play just a little bit more and be more consistent, if Marvin Harrison Jr. can show up and be a real mismatch each and every week, then I would have no problem saying 10, but I'm going to say 9 just because I'm cautiously optimistic. But that situation with the health in the NFC West and some of these new look offenses, you could see the Cardinals just being the team that does not let up, and they can just kind of bully some of these groups.
Yeah, I'm buying into the defensive transformation. Their D-line is just going to be a much different animal. And Will Johnson, I think, is an NFL-ready guy. Like, he's an NFL-ready guy to exactly what they needed. Offense, I don't even know if the offense needs to change too much from a year ago. I think it will be better. I think the Marvin Harrison Jr. Kyler Murray connection, I think is going to work out a lot better. I think you'll see him take a big step forward in year 2. But even if it doesn't, I still think what they've done defensively takes this from an 8-win team to a 10-win team. I think that's where they're at. And again, the favorable schedule helps as well. All right, last team in the West here. San Francisco 49ers, 6 wins last year. 10.5, though, is their over-under. Highest of anyone in that division. And it's only minus 102. Obviously, they have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. That's a big part of why. I went 10, Kyle went 10, but Brock, you're not quite buying the big bounce back year. You only went 8 for the 49ers.
I understand how easy their schedule is, but I feel people are too confident and they think they understand what this team is going to look like. Kyle brought it up, I think, when we were talking about the Rams. No, when we were talking about the Seahawks. This team is beyond injured. I don't even know what the word for it is at this point. And we're not even factoring in the guys that are currently healthy that haven't finished seasons healthy normally, notably the guy in the graphic right there, even though he's one of the best at the running back spot when he is healthy. Brock Purdy will be there. Brock Purdy is all eyes on him. You got your big money. You look to your left, you look to your right. There's probably 2 or 3 guys who aren't here anymore because we had to pay Brock Purdy. Who is he throwing to with confidence? That's my question. Who is he throwing the ball to with confidence? And defensively, when you are facing this team, okay, George Kittle is their best threat through the air right now until anybody gets healthy. Well, how much room can you put between Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle? Because those are the 2 guys that defenses are going to have to respect. George Kittle is a traditional tight end. He is an inline guy. It's not like Kelsey where you can flex him out wide. All of the attention is from hash to hash. And until the 49ers can prove to me that they can threaten you from the numbers to the sideline, I just can't raise my win total. It doesn't feel good, but I can't.
I'm going to buy this uptick here because I do love Brock Purdy, and I love what he's all about. And for all the question marks about a slew of quarterbacks and their character and some of their habits, I don't think there's anything I can point my finger at for Brock Purdy. He's a competitor. He loves to give his guys opportunities. And while they dealt with a lot of injuries last year in San Francisco, one thing they did is they got a lot of experience from some young players who are going to be asked to be a big part of turning this thing around. I've got the Niners at 10 wins. You know how I feel about Kyle Shanahan and his innovation offensively, and he puts guys in good positions. They drafted well on the offensive line. And Robert Saleh's back in town, okay? He's with his boy. That's something to keep an eye on. That's called chemistry, and you want to bottle that shit up like lightning in the National Football League. 10 wins. I like Brock Purdy, Ricky Pearsall. Come on.
Yeah, I went 10 wins, but I kind of do see them more like you see them, Brock, in that this team is not just going to be the Super Bowl team we saw 2 years ago. Yeah. They have the stars, right? The big names are there, and yeah, they were hurt last year, and that's why they weren't, why they fell off so hard. But they also have lost so much of, it wasn't just a stars and scrubs approach to get to that Super Bowl. They had a lot of great other starters that aren't walking through that door anymore. Brandon Ayuk's hurt. Right to start the season. Deebo Samuel's gone. Aaron Banks is gone.
Greenlaw's out of there. Hufanga's gone.
Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, Eric Armstead, Javon Hargrave, and those last 2 maybe the biggest because they stunk along the defensive line last year, and they didn't add anyone besides really in the draft. And as we said, the draft, you don't always know what you're going to get. Michael Williams may not be an impact player year one. Alfred Collins might not be an impact player year one. It doesn't always, these guys don't always hit the ground running. Now, I like them as prospects, but it's also like they're big unknowns, and that's all you're relying on for your defensive turnaround. That was, bottom 5 run defense in the NFL last year. I don't know if it's going to happen. So I went 10 just because the schedule's so easy, but I would not advise going and betting over 10.5 for this team right now. It just, I don't think the bounce back's coming, and the division right now is too tough, in my opinion. All right, last division here, NFC East. Philadelphia Eagles, 14 wins a season ago, 11.5 is their over-under. It's plus 105 if you want to bet the over there. I'm still buying, though. I went 12. Kyle went 13. Brock, you went 11.
So the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be meeting the Baltimore Ravens in the Super Bowl. This is not an indictment on how I see their season ending. This is an indictment on maybe there's a little bit of an offensive line shuffle to figure out the first month of the year. Maybe the secondary needs a little bit of time to gel because there are still question marks. They've added names, but they still don't have positions locked in. I see a situation where the starting O-line week 1 and the starting O-line week 5, guys are moving all over the place, right? Same thing with the secondary from week 1 to week 5, guys are moving. So this isn't a lack of trust. This is things are going to need to gel. They've had some unfortunate injuries, and that is how you solve that. That being said, this team faces an NFL record 10 teams that were in the playoffs a year ago. 7 of those games, they play on the road. Love Jalen Hurts. Love Saquon Barkley. Love the best wide receiver duo in the NFL. That's hard for anyone to do. It's going to be an uphill battle to the playoffs, but once they get to the playoffs, they're going to come alive and they will find themselves in the Super Bowl. So that is why this win total is so low.
Run game travels. Defensive line travels. Okay, that stuff matters. Short yardage matters. And I don't care if it's Jalen Hurts or Tanner McKee. The Eagles can get it. We've seen it happen. A.J. Brown's one of the best receivers in football. They've got a true Robin to his Batman and Devontae Smith. I mean, this offense has everything that you want. I don't see why they don't find themselves back in the Super Bowl. I've got them for 13 wins. It's a tremendous point on your part. 7 of the 10 playoff opponents that they will play will be on the road. Calloused. If there's ever a group that's calloused enough to go handle that, it's Philadelphia Eagles, man. I'm always impressed at Howie Roseman. I'm always surprised to see Nick Sirianni's record. And I'm always surprised to hear that everybody just loves being in Philly. It just is like, it's a special town. They've got a special roster, and that window's been open, and they've been making the most of it. 13 wins, Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I like the over here. I just, like you said there, Kyle, run game travels, defense travels, but it also, it's like you're consistent when you have what they have. It's going to be a consistent football team. So even when they lose games, they don't get blown out. They lose games down to the wire. And when you play down to the wire football, last possession football, when you have the run game they do, when you can run out games the way they can, you're just going to win a lot of football games. It's why the run game is so important in the NFL still. Yeah. And then outside of some other teams in the NFC, like I picked the Bucs to have more wins. This team is deep at every position that really matters. Like even at quarterback, if Tanner McKee had to go in there, I think this team would win games, right?
It's to be okay.
So
we saw the tush push work. They don't need to do much else with, just put them out there and
yes. And their backup O-line has 3 guys who you feel okay being starters. Their second string of D-line, their backup their backup corners and safeties are all guys you're like, yeah, he could probably start. So it's just such a deep roster that it can absorb hits that I think it's built to win at least 12 games. Like I said, I was probably being a little conservative, even just going 12 for the Eagles this year. Commanders, they won 12 a year ago. Their over or under is set at 8.5, and some people aren't quite buying it. It's only minus 118. You would think a big drop off from what they did last year. You would think maybe that number's a little higher, but they go from obviously one of the easiest schedules in the NFL to now one of the hardest schedules in the NFL. That playing a big factor there. I went 8, Kyle went 9, and Brock, you went 9.
And here's why. This is my favorite stat of last season. Okay. The Commanders won 6 games where they were tied or losing in the final 10 seconds. Now, the chips can fall in infinite number of ways. And I initially wanted to sit here and say, okay, that proves that Jaden Daniels has poise. That proves that this team can play under pressure. I went back and watched some of those moments, and things could have went. They could have went 0-6, right? I mean, you look at the Chicago Hail Mary, which really is when this Commander season shot to the moon. This is when the Chicago Bears ran into a brick wall and never really recovered for the end of the year. Moments like that, they just empower you. And if the chips fell differently, maybe they aren't so empowered going forward. Now, as an X's and O's standpoint, with the assumption that Terry McLaurin is playing all 17 games for them, this offense is loaded. This defense needs to tackle a little bit better, but they're going to be fine. It's just the fact of how easily the games that they won a year ago could have went differently. It'll be a tougher schedule this year. This division only got better. Jaden Daniels is still the future. I'm going to watch him. They're going to make the playoffs, and anything can happen there. But that's how I got to the number 9.
Jaden Daniels is fantastic. The white jerseys that they're going to be reintroducing this season are beyond fantastic, and they bring me back to a really good time as a young football fan. It's going to be tough to repeat that magic, and it's, oftentimes we see a great, movie, you go see a Paramount film, and you have a great time watching it, and then you go find the sequel, and you're like, it just doesn't scratch the itch like the first one did, and I feel like that's going to be the theme this year with the Commanders. And they just don't have the bullets. They don't have the bullets as a roster. It's what we saw last year when it came playoff time. The moment was never too big for Jaden Daniels. And they've got a really special thing there at quarterback, and they can build around it, continue to. I think Dan Quinn's awesome. The culture is unquestionably fantastic in Washington right now. And it's a big change from what we've seen historically in the nation's capital. But I can't, in good faith, like Brock's talking about, those one-score games, 10 seconds left. It doesn't always fall that way in the NFL, so don't get used to that.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments. When you play the AFC West and the NFC North, it's a tough schedule. There's no gimmies in any of those divisions, and there's no gimmies in their division anymore. I think this is more of a indictment of how I feel about the Giants this year, how I feel about the Cowboys this year, just being good rosters, how I feel about them, how they match up with the Eagles. Yeah, they stole one from them last year, but I'm not sure they get one from them this year. And I just don't think they did enough in the run defense, truthfully, as I think the biggest thing, this was the worst run defense that made the playoffs last year. Add Javon Kinlaw, not a great run defender. Add Von Miller, at this point, is just a pass rusher. Yeah, you add to the secondary, maybe you could put more resources up front to stop the run, but then how long is Marshawn Lattimore going to stay healthy before his hamstring turns to dust again? It's just like this defense, I don't think is an above average defense, and it's just going to be difficult. You have to be so great offensively. And I shouldn't bet against Jaden Daniels. I'm not going to bet against Jaden Daniels. I'm not going to bet this line on the under, but I think there's a lot of reasons pointing to a step back from this team potential for me to really buy in. All right, Dallas Cowboys, 2024, they won 7 games. Their over-under is at 7.5 right now, minus 135 to the over. Cowboys fans buying in, and I'm kind of buying in. I mean, I went 8, Kyle went 8, Brock went 7. Just feels like feels like Vegas got this one right here, Brock.
I feel the storm brewing in Dallas. I really do. From an X's and O's standpoint, let's talk about cornerback depth. Look at their schedule, and you tell me how many games you are confident that Deron Bland and maybe Diggs has a green flag by then, and whoever else is in this cornerback room healthy and ready to go. Point out the games that you are confident that they can handle their own based off past health, based off just last year. And it's not going to be many. I found 4. I found 4 games where I could say, okay, Bland and Diggs, or even if Diggs isn't there, they can handle that. That's not enough for me. I'm also looking at the running back situation. You got Javonte Williams, got Miles Sanders, you got Jaden Blue. That doesn't do much for me. And it's not a knock on any of those guys. It's just if Dak, for whatever reason, starts off slow, hamstrings are a nightmare. Hamstrings will never go away. Kyle, you know this. You were talking about the back earlier. Your back never heals. Your hamstring never heals as well. So if there's a situation where, hey, Dak turns to the running back room and says, I need to put this on your guys' shoulders, I don't see a name there yet that can do that for them. But the biggest reason, guys, is this reality show that Jerry Jones has created. And every single offseason, Jerry Jones just starts some stuff up, right? And that's what's made the Cowboys the most valuable franchise in the world. And it has worked. But I see a sentiment now across this team where they're just saying enough of this. There is a social contract between reality TV stars where we all know that we're part of this. Maybe it's a generational thing. Maybe Michael Irvin and Troy Aikman didn't care about this, but this affects Dak Prescott. This affected CeeDee Lamb, and this really affects Micah Parsons enough. So in a situation where they come out the gate slow, I feel this offseason and the stress and the turmoil and the owner versus the player versus the owners, I feel it weighing on them. I see Jerry Jones in a situation where he is too late to realize what you have done has worked to build the brand, but it is not going to work anymore. These guys take things very personal. They from a social media standpoint, any negativity is the only thing they're going to hear. They're going to hear it 20 times a day. Whereas if you say something mean about Michael Irvin, he's not going to hear it. You know, it's enough, Jerry Jones. Enough. Lay off. And because of that huge distraction, I had to cap the win total there.
One of the things that they've got right in Dallas is Dak Prescott. He is awesome and underappreciated and so tough. And all the same things that I talk about Baker Mayfield, I will say about Dak Prescott. I truly believe that. They've got a real chance with him and CeeDee Lamb. Now you add this guy George Pickens into the equation. And if he even shows up to the stadium, I think that they can cover this win total because damn, he's good when he is right. And CeeDee Lamb is, as Adam Shine would say, CeeDee Lamb's got the chops. He's special, and he's a guy that you can have your game plan built around week in, week out. The offensive line is going to continue to congeal. They've got a lot of youth there. They've got some budding stars in that room. So if they can play well on the offensive line, if they can protect Dak Prescott, they're going to be in every single game, just like the Cincinnati Bengals. We've got a shot because we've got a quarterback and two receivers who can be real threats week in, week out. That's what I'll say about the Cowboys. I got them getting 8 wins.
Yeah, I would like this Cowboys. I think the talent's there for double-digit wins. I don't think that's my issue with this Cowboys team. It's one, head coach Brian Schottenheimer. I've said before, I thought he was the worst head coaching hire this offseason. I don't think he does anything for you. And two, I don't think he can control this locker room that could very easily get out of hand. You have Micah Parsons already being, very outspoken at war with Jerry Jones right now. But then the kind of a story that got swept under the rug that I thought was interesting was they docked Trayvon Diggs $500,000 for missing off-season workouts when he was rehabbing an ACL tear. I believe it was ACL tear, right? That was what he had.
Yes.
Which was, he rehabbed away from the facility, but if he was there, it was a clause that was in the contract. Yeah. But he couldn't practice anyway. So he was rehabbing and they chose to exercise that clause. And it's damn, if this is one of your star players, you want to take $500,000 out of his pocket after he tore his ACL when it was just a formality if he would have been in the facility. And then you got guys like George Pickens who are always, one play, one, non-targeted pass away from becoming a problem that I see the recipe for disaster. Yes, volatile. There you go. I see the recipe for disaster here being about as high as any team in the NFL. So that's why I went only with 8, but they should be better than that. I mean, this was the 2 seed 2 years ago. It feels like a team that could get back to that sort of range, but I think that the potential downside far outweighs the potential upside here. Last team, New York Giants, 2024. They won 3 games. They're over under set at 5.5. It's at plus 100. And I got a few investments in the over on 5.5 there. This is one of my favorites. I've been saying it all off season. I think people maybe finally saw it with Abdul Carter in his preseason action. I just said when I scouted this guy that he was one of the best edges I've ever scouted. The grade I had on him was sky high, higher than guys like Will Anderson and Jared Verse, who in recent years were, massive impact rookies. And if you put a guy like that on this Giants D-line, all of a sudden, I think it's just going to transform what they do defensively. So I went 8, Kyle went 9. Brock, even you're still buying the over. You went 7 here.
Yes, I'm buying the over, and you wonderfully highlighted how dangerous this pass rush could be. So let me highlight the two names who are going to benefit from this most. The safety duo of Javon Holland and Tyler Nubin. When talking about the Bears, I said Colston Loveland comes from the school of Travis Kelce. Well, now we have young safeties who come from the school of Honey Badger. Tyrann Mathieu, congrats on the retirement. You were so much fun to watch. These guys are just playmakers. These guys are positionless. These guys can blitz. They can cover one-on-one. They can drop in zone. They can take on pulling offensive linemen. They can squeeze into run fits. They can do everything. And the chaos that is caused up front reaps the rewards of the guys on the back end. Those two will be household names by year's end. And because of Tyrone Tracy, Tyrone Tracy Jr. last year was his second year playing running back. His second year. We have no idea what the ceiling is for how good Tyrone Tracy will be. And I know it's going to be sky high. So those are the reasons that I'm very, I know the number 7 doesn't raise any eyebrows, but compared to last year and the year before that, that's a big improvement. And Dayball may not be done just yet.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head with them bringing in a guy like Abdul Carter, who is an immediate red. They highlight him in red in the team meeting, and they're like, you have to know where this guy is. It jumped off the tape to me. I mean, some of the things he was doing to Pro Bowl offensive linemen in the preseason was kind of gross. And then they got him out of there quick. That unit is going to carry this football team. And I put the Giants on the short list of teams that are just going to be fun to watch, week in, week out. I'm just going to have my eye on Malik Neighbors, watch him dominate. And that's kind of been the theme, is that these rookies step in for the Giants and have had dominant seasons. So Abdul Carter, it's your turn. Who knows? Maybe a guy like Jackson Dart will get an opportunity down the road somewhere this season. I liked what I saw from him in the preseason. So, not world beaters, but fun to watch. Spicy team.
Yeah, I'll just add one more thing to why I think we're all buying the over here. As much as we laugh at Russell Wilson, and there's a lot to laugh at, and there's a lot to point at and be like, what the hell is going on here? He's better than Daniel Jones. He's better than Daniel Jones was. Like he went to the playoffs last year. Right. He can win you football games if the rest is there, and I think there's more than enough there. Now, I wish Andrew Thomas was not still sidelined from the Liz Frank injury he had last year. That would make me feel a lot better about this team. That's obviously a big question mark going forward. But they have stars. This team has true stars. They may not get talked about much, but Malik Neighbors is about to be a true Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson level star. Dexter Lawrence is a star, and Abdul Carter is about to be a star. So they have, the past 2 years, added 2 of the most impactful players in each of those drafts, and I think people aren't quite ready for how that's going to transform what this team looks like. They were a laughingstock last year, yes. I don't think that continues. Buying into a little Giants turnaround here. All right, there you have it. Your NFC win total projections. We'll be back on Monday, breaking down week 2 of the preseason, going overreactions or underreactions to what we saw over the weekend. Thanks so much, Brock, for joining us. Until next time, keep pushing.